the Motivational Cowboy, Johnny D.
All right, another episode of Outstanding Life Podcasts with your friend, Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy. That's right, that is me. And in the house with me right now in Charlotte, North Carolina, I got Jasen Vinlove. What a cool name, Jasen.
Hey, I was born with it 42 years ago. So
I love that. I mean, it's almost like a stage name.
It is a stage name. I didn't have to come up with my own. Everybody loves it. It's unique. It's a conversation starter.
Yeah.
It's, you know what? I've been blessed with it.
Yeah. So I just met you this morning, and the coolest thing is we meet at our buddy's place off Excess Paint, and I come out of the bathroom today, and I thought the guys were playing a joke on me, and there was a snake, real snake.
I come out of the front bathroom, just brush my teeth, and I hear a commotion, and all of a sudden I see people running, and I walk up, and it's about a 4-inch snake.
Hey, listen, 4-inch, but it was a dangerous snake.
We think.
Listen,
nobody knows.
It was dangerous. I'm telling you. Remember, people can't see us right now. This snake was huge.
Yeah. That's like your fishing stories, right?
Right, exactly.
You know.
So, Jasen, Greg, he told me all about you yesterday. He's like, Johnny, you're going to be here. You're going to be here for a couple days. I have a great friend of mine, and you need to have him on your podcast. So me and you start talking, and about 4 minutes into our conversation, I said, okay, stop.
Yeah, you just like save
30
it.
minutes. Yeah, save your story because it is so awesome. Now tell everybody what you do for a living.
So I am a freelance photographer for USA Today Sports Imagers. And, I do some photography on the side. I've been transitioning into a little more video because that's obviously the way of the future.
Right.
Everybody with Snapchat and Insta stories and, this social media aspect, everybody wants more visual, moving content, video content. But I travel, I used to travel the United States, a little less now since moving to Florida, but I go to basically get paid to go to sporting events and freeze time.
Man, that is so cool. So I think that the segment is going to be called Frozen Moments.
I like it.
I know because you came up with it. I'm just stealing it, but I'm going to give you credit now.
I'm a little biased.
So let's go back to when you started and why you got started taking pictures.
So, as I said, I've been doing this a little bit, a couple days now. But I started back in 1994. I went to vocational school. I'll be honest, I wasn't the best student in school, so
right.
I was always looking for the shortcut or the way out or to have fun. So once I became a sophomore and was obviously eligible to take the vocational classes, trade schools in some areas, I went. My dad had been a part-time radio DJ at a local radio station.
Okay.
And he had done some mobile DJ work for weddings, parties, and I enjoyed it because I could let myself go and I could talk to people and I could play music and listen to music, and I was like, wow,
it's the best job in the world.
Yeah, I can play music and get paid. You make a couple $100 on a weekend.
Yeah.
And I did high school dances and I did, some weddings and some, after parties.
And this was in 10th grade.
This was in 10th grade. Yes.
That is so cool because next month I'm actually going to one of those schools and talking to a bunch of 10th graders.
Nice.
So I'm actually excited about it because this is something that I can share your story with them
and
share
cool.
the podcast. So your dad was a DJ.
So the curriculum was radio, TV broadcast.
Okay.
With photography. So, I was big into the radio, TV broadcast. I was crazy. We would go on our little radio station that probably transmitted within 5 miles of the school. I mean, it wasn't the most powerful station, and probably best that it wasn't the most powerful station. But we would have talk shows, and and we would go on there and we would do impersonations and we would have all these.
Would it be the students interviewing like the students?
Yeah, we would.
Awesome.
And you know, some students would go on there and just play music, and they would do the drops between music and the bumpers between music. But me and a couple friends, we like to talk. So we probably had the talk show before the talk shows.
Right.
And this was 94, 95. And, you know, we would do impressions. I mean, there was one time we had Ringo Starr on, and it was probably a very bad impression. You know,
so did you do
in
those?
10th grade? No,
So what impressions did you do?
I didn't do any.
Oh, I gotcha. I was cocked and ready.
Yeah,
saying, okay, you got to give us some.
mediator. But I remember we had a contest, a calling contest. I specifically remember this one because it was the Ringo Starr episode.
Right.
And we had, you know, if anybody could call in and name all four of the Beatles and then the fifth Beatle. And we would give out a candy bar. It was something goofy.
Right.
And we gave out the classroom's telephone number, which was a no-no. I mean, we didn't have a phone in the booth, but we gave out the classroom's number, and all of a sudden the phone just started ringing off the hook. And our teacher come in and he shut us down for the day. But it well, at least
you know that people were listening.
Yeah, people were listening. I don't know who because we didn't get to talk, but but then the next semester rolled around and it was the photography portion. And at this time, you know, I had you know, small film cameras, 110, 126. You know, the younger fans won't understand what size of film that is, and they're probably like listening and be like, "Film? What the heck?
What the heck's that?
Film?"
Right? Exactly.
So, so I would, you know, I went into the dark room, and I think at that moment I was just like, I don't want to do radio or TV anymore. This is even more fun.
So what was it? I often call this in my podcast the aha moments.
It was an aha moment.
Really?
It totally was an aha moment because when the moment I picked up the camera and started learning, you know, about the camera and composition and color and black and white and development, and that was the moment I was like, this is pretty cool. I don't want to go back and do radio. I don't want to go back and do the TV portion. So, you know, the curriculum really was kind of like a it wasn't so much as like a book curriculum. It was kind of a hands-on. It was very hands-on.
Right.
So I mean, you were spending days behind the camera in a small makeshift studio in the classroom, and then you would go into the dark room.
So back then, you actually took film.
Yeah, I mean, you would load your film into a cartridge. You would send
go into the dark room and the whole deal.
Yeah, you develop your film, and then once you got your film developed or your slides developed, you would go off and make your prints on the enlarger.
That is so sweet.
You would make your portfolios. And then
do you remember your first photo?
No, it was probably some like portrait of somebody in the class.
Right. Okay.
But at that point, I was like, this is really cool. And I advanced into the color section, like the color slides and chrome and everything faster than anybody else. So I was like actually doing color while everybody else was doing black and white. And I remember by the time my senior, because it was my junior year came around, I was actually interning at a studio where I was learning. And back in 94, 95, there was a thing called a master photographer. I mean, people were given certificates. So I was learning from masters at that time, color and lighting and studio work. Because I would spend my morning at my general education school in Illinois, and then at 11 o'clock I would go to work as an intern. And I got paid for it. So I'm already like,
this is great.
This is fantastic. I'm going to work. I'm getting paid a little bit of money.
Right. And doing what you love.
Yeah. And it was fantastic. And then, I graduated and I lost interest. And because I did, in 95, we started to see, digital convergence come in, and I'm like, oh, wow, I don't know that I can make this a career. So I got a good job right out of high school.
So the
Didn't
whole
go to
digital
college.
thing, did it intimidate you like most digital things did?
It did. Because nobody, you had this fear of, oh my gosh, digital will never be as good as film.
Right.
Digital there is no way. But then there was the cost factor,
Right,
digital
yeah.
cameras were coming out and you were talking, tens of thousands of dollars just for a camera. And, as a kid in 1995, I couldn't afford that.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think what it was really kind of the price also scared me because I knew I couldn't afford it. And, going into, the future, you had to invest, a ton of money to make a living.
Right.
And so I got rid.
So you didn't go to college?
No, didn't
you got
go
a
to
real
college.
job?
Got a real job. Sat
What'd
at a
you do?
cubicle. I worked as a. What did I do? The brain. I tell you, Johnny, the brain gets slower and older as you get older.
Yeah.
So. I worked at an insurance company where my family worked. It wasn't a family-owned insurance, but it was a national insurance company, and I did customer service. So I was on the phone, fielding customer calls about their insurance.
Right.
And I worked for that company for about 7 years.
Wow. So you went a long time without taking photos.
It was. I probably 5 years into that. I picked up a digital camera and I started playing again.
Yeah.
And I would go to sporting events and I went to a few NASCAR races, so they're a common bond.
Right.
I think my first NASCAR race that I went to was the one Dale Jr. won in Daytona in the baseball car.
Okay.
I want to say it was 2002.
Two or three.
I want to say 2002. And I just
now you went as a spectator, right?
Yeah, I took my dad and we drove from Illinois to Daytona.
Now, were you a NASCAR fan, or did you want to go there and take photos?
No, I grew up as a NASCAR fan.
Who was your driver? Just
my driver was Dale Jarrett.
okay,
growing up.
yeah, absolutely.
It was one of those. Dad liked Dale Jarrett. I liked Dale Jarrett.
Right. Have you had a chance to meet him?
I have. Yeah.
What was that like? Knowing that you watched him on TV, you watched him race.
The first time was like, like anybody meeting a superstar.
Yeah.
You can't talk.
Right.
Sign the autograph. Thank you.
Right.
It's just, you meet a superstar and you're just starstruck.
Yeah. That's cool.
And then I think.
Yeah. So 7 years, you're at the insurance place and you just decided, hey, you know what? I'm done.
No, I stayed in retail. I worked.
Okay.
I think this is where it started. When I left corporate and went to retail and I worked at Best Buy for another. It was like 2001.
So you went there, or you worked there to get the discounts?
Yeah, pretty much. But I ended up getting on full time and becoming like a supervisor, and then worked my way up into management.
Yeah,
there.
awesome.
But then I started making money.
Right.
And then
like real money.
Yeah, then I started making real money, and I was like, I started buying camera equipment because by then, digital cameras had come down, and Canon had come out with the Digital Rebel, which was the first digital SLR camera that was, like having that Pentax K1000, but had a little screen on the back, and you could put a memory card in, and you didn't have to go into the darkroom or send your pictures off and wait for a week to see that they all come back out of focus or out of exposure. You could just look at that magical little 1.5 inch screen on the back and say, "Oh, out of focus, delete." So I started making, money, and I could afford the stuff finally, not the expensive stuff, but I could afford to get a foot in the door. Mm-hmm. And that foot in the door was really kind of all I needed. Kind of snowballed from there.
You got that feeling back of when you were in 10th grade.
Yeah. It was that
another aha moment.
It was an aha moment. And then, I did what everybody did. I got married and then was married for a few years, but still played in photography. Then I got divorced. But it was 2011 or 10, I want to say. I went to the St. Louis Cardinals winter warm up. Is where they have all the players come out, sign autographs.
Right.
You get out of the house. It's before baseball season, before spring training starts. And by that time, I had been, going to some high school games, shooting some high school games, shooting some portraits.
Just for yourself, or
just for myself,
or extra money on the side?
Just for myself.
Okay.
And I think there was a couple gigs that I had made money at.
Right.
Not good money, but $50 here, $100 there.
Pays for gas sometimes.
Right. And I had an iPad, and I had what I thought was a great portfolio at that time.
Right. Yeah.
So I went to the photo seminar with the team photographer who had been a team photographer for the Cardinals baseball team for, what was it? He had been going on like 20 years. So,
Wow.
I mean, this guy had like credibility. And
right.
Scott Rovac is his name, and, great friend. And just probably one of the best sports photographers. There are a lot. I mean, Scott is a great photographer, great mentor. And I waited till the end of the lecture, and I went up and I showed him my portfolio, and I'm like, can you give me honest feedback? He's like, I don't know any other way but to give you honest feedback. So he's like swiping, no. Now,
did he say no and then give you a reason why? Because sometimes
he would,
critique it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you know what I mean? Because some people will just say no unless you ask the right questions.
Right, exactly. So I think there was like 1 out of 20 images that he said were portfolio. And he gave me reasons why, and we talked, and he said, but stick with it, because I could tell you have an eye. And the biggest thing, especially in the industry, is to have an eye, but always be learning.
Right.
Because the moment you think you're at the top,
oh yeah,
people pass you right by.
Absolutely.
And it's an ego thing. There are some guys who have that ego, but then fall off that mountain real quick.
Let's go to that portfolio of when he was giving you advice.
Sure.
What was the one thing you took away from that portfolio when you got 1 out of 20 photos that was actually good for a professional to say that was good?
I was probably a little different than most people would have reacted. I was like, thank you. I really... I think at that time it had opened my eyes to...
what were you missing? Because just like life, sometimes we think we know what we're doing. And then it takes one person to say, hey, you might want to just try it like this. And all of a sudden it works.
I think it was more of like the story.
Okay.
Like it didn't convey a
It was just a
story.
good photo.
It was a good photo.
But it didn't tell a story.
Right. It didn't have punch. It didn't have that grab you moment.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on
in
this
that
image.
feeling. Yeah, absolutely.
Because really, anybody can take a picture of this water bottle, but to tell the story, what's a better way to take a picture of this water bottle? Stand back at that wall and have you and I having this conversation in front of that water bottle.
Right.
Then it's like telling a story of what's going on in this room.
Wow. Something that simple.
So yeah, it
seems so simple.
Right.
But you weren't capturing that.
No. So now I go into almost anything, and I'm like looking, how do I tell the story of this event? Because anybody can point a camera at a car going by.
I love this story. So he looks at your portfolio. He likes one. What was the next step? You're still working, right?
I think the next step was keeping in contact with him.
Okay.
And so I lost contact, but I'd go to baseball games. I mean, like, one day I'm going to be down there.
Right.
It's like that.
And you were still keeping a real job though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Still keeping a real job. But it's like one of those manifestation things. You see something, never get that out of your head. See yourself in that position.
Absolutely.
So, when was it? It was 2010 or 11. It was definitely 2009, 2010. I started a studio in downtown St. Louis with a bunch of guys, and it was a ragtag group. I mean, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. It was definitely it was definitely the old West. I mean, but we did education. We did, we rented out the studio for people to come in, and they did, portrait shoots and wedding shoots and all sorts of things. And at that point, the studio had talked to the St. Louis Rams football team because they were in St. Louis at the time.
Right.
And we were awarded this was in 2012. We were awarded the contract to shoot the St. Louis Rams cheerleaders calendar.
Okay. That's not a bad gig.
No, not a bad gig, but if you've never shot one before, you're just like, what the heck did I just get myself into?
Right, yeah.
But you've got to take that anxiety and instantly put it in your back pocket.
Yeah.
And then it just comes, you're just taking a picture of, somebody in a beautiful place.
Yeah.
So
where did that take place? Was it just studio shots, or
no,
did you go around St. Louis?
No. Our first year we went to Cancun, Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All paid.
Yeah.
You must have thought you hit the big time.
A little.
I mean, wow, I'm getting paid. One, I'm doing a cool calendar. One, I'm working for the Rams, and they're paying me to go to Cancun.
Yeah, but there was a ton of stress behind it because I'd never done anything like that before. So one of the partners didn't have a passport to leave the country. So I called up Scott and I said, and I hadn't talked to him in a while. I'm like, hey, do you want to go and partner up with this with me? And, he did. Mm-hmm. I think
he did.
our friendship really, started with that. And ever since then, we did the calendar, we produced the calendar, team loved it. Mm-hmm. The girls loved it. And then I had that contract for another 5 years until they left for LA.
Okay.
But it was probably 2012. I started also editing sports pictures for Scott during like hockey season. And at that time he had gotten the job as a team photographer for the St. Louis Blues hockey. Okay. He had already had the Cardinals and the Rams.
Wow.
So at that point, cool. There was kind of a secondary position with USA Today Sports Images that opened up. And I kind of right place, right time slid in. And I started, that's where I kind of started in the freelance sports.
What was it like for you to finally see one of your photos published? Was that pretty cool?
It was pretty cool.
Because you just said a little bit ago that you couldn't wait to be that guy down on the floor, the guy down there taking the photos, being that man or woman taking the photos. And then all of a sudden you were.
I still feel that way.
Yeah.
I still feel like every day is the first day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's funny you said that because we're in two totally different businesses, but people often ask me, do you still get nervous before you go give a motivational talk? I said, absolutely.
Every day.
I still get nervous. I still get excited. Not in a negative way, but in a positive way, because I still never, ever, ever want to forget where I came from.
Right.
And even if, like this weekend, being in Charlotte and interviewing the NASCAR guys, I still get excited because I'm there to have fun with them, to make them look good, to have fun, to be the mediator between the fans and them.
It's the connection, right?
It's the connection, exactly. And so I still get nervous, and it's so cool that you're saying that you still get that exact same way.
Whether it's a baseball game, a football game. I mean, they're just games.
Yeah.
Whether it's, a regular season game to national championship football game, it's still a game at the end of the day, but it's something that not many people get to do.
Absolutely.
So I always remember, and I'm very humble about it, that it's a privilege. It's not a right. It's a privilege every day.
Do you remember the day that you had to make that decision to quit your real job?
Yeah.
And I say this smiling because I remember the day that I had to either crap or get off the pot.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it was like I had that opportunity and I had to either do it or not do it.
Yeah. I was
scariest day of my life, besides my daughter being born.
It was definitely a scary day. I remember I was working at copy machine sales. I kind of did everything.
Right.
I was working in copy machine sales. I had just used all my vacation to travel. This was 2014, I want to say. And I just used all my vacation to travel. I've been using non-pay days to travel. And I got to the point where I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I need to do this now.
Absolutely.
So I had, this was before I was divorced, and I, talked to my then wife, and we agreed it was one of those that, if I could do it and be successful, I'd give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked into the office and said, here's my 2 week, but really only needs to be 1 week because I got to leave to go to some event. I don't know I can't remember if it was NASCAR. I think it was Phoenix.
Wow. Okay.
I was headed out to Phoenix for a week, and turned in a 2 week notice, and then I jumped in, and, luckily at that point, I mean, jobs were coming in,
mm-hmm.
and I did some freelance, individual work too.
Has there been a time yet, because you jumped in and things were good, has there been a time yet that it kind of went down and you're like, whoa, did I make the right choice? Like things were great and now they're not so great.
Ironically, every summer I feel that way.
Right.
because fast forward 2000, 2.5 years ago, after my divorce, I called the company and said, I just have family here, but I can go anywhere. Where would you like me to go? And they sent me down to South Florida. So I've been in Miami now for 2.5 years. Great sports market. Basketball, college basketball, football, college football.
Wow. So you're shooting all the time. Yeah. What's the one sport that you love to shoot the most?
All of them.
I knew you were going to say that.
Every single one.
But if you had to pick one, just right now, because the feeling changes, I'm sure. Right now, if you could say it.
Right now, I'm like super high on golf.
Really? Golf?
Yeah, I knew I was going to get that.
What?
Because you're thinking of it from a guy that's going up to the tee box, hitting a ball, and then walking to the middle of the green or middle of the fairway, hitting another ball. And then,
that's what happens in golf.
It is. But what you're not seeing it happen is you're not seeing it. Okay, did you pay attention to what happened this weekend? Tiger Woods won.
Tiger won. Yeah.
So
that was pretty cool.
So the thing about golf is it gives you every moment, every swing of the stick gives you a chance to make an image that's impactful to not only you but the fan, because that's what golf's all about. I mean, golf is about putting the ball in the hole from 500 yards out, but what it's telling you, remember about the story about the water bottle.
Yep.
Okay. Instead of taking that picture of the guy swinging the stick at the ball, how about going back about 30 yards and you've got cell phones that are hanging, that people are holding up, and you barely see the golfer in there, and you have, I don't know, 3,000 people around that tee box watching something magical happen that hasn't happened in 5 years.
Yeah.
That's your golf image.
I love it.
But it gives you a chance to make more impactful images.
Let me ask you this. Has there been...
And it's great exercise too.
Oh, I bet. An athlete, because you do this for the paper, which is for the fans, because the fans are the ones buying the paper.
Right.
I mean, I get all that. But has there been an athlete or athletes that you can tell me that has came to you and said, Jasen, that photo that you took of me, I never saw myself like that. Or, man, what a great photo of me. And you really captured this moment. Or maybe a family member of the athlete. Have you ever had one of those moments where they actually contacted you?
I've had a couple of those moments.
What was that like for you?
It was good. It was one of those that when somebody sees theirself in in a different light of what they're doing, whether they're swinging a bat or driving a car. That's when you know that the image told the story that in your mind you were thinking of.
Yeah.
And really that's impact, right? So,
and the reason why I asked that is because just a couple of weeks ago, a amateur photographer took a photo of me on stage, and it was like from the back. Okay. So all you see was 3/4 from my waist up,
right.
My cowboy hat with the spotlight on my head. You couldn't see the audience. You could see the lights in the front. And it was one of the coolest photos.
Yeah.
And he was so excited because he's like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm just practicing. That's why I didn't charge you anything.
Right.
But it was one of those, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now because it was just like one of those moments, like, it said a lot without saying anything.
Right. Yeah.
And it wasn't even my face. It wasn't my reaction. It was just the back of me on stage. And that's where I was like, I had to ask you, have you ever had anybody come to you and say, hey, thanks, man?
Yeah, I mean, it happens. You get, the DM from Instagram if you've posted it, or the instant, the message.
Have you ever captured a cool moment of you doing something for, like, maybe golf, but you actually got a fan and you captured a moment that you didn't even know that you were capturing?
Oh yeah, it happens. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's times that just a couple weeks ago, I'm doing a Jags Patriots game, and a play happens, and I go back and I look at and I don't see this through the lens.
Right.
I just see a guy tackling a guy, and it's a pretty isolated moment, but I go back and I look at the image, and the tackler's face mask is flipped up, breaking off.
Yeah.
And you see the angst in the faces, and it's some of those, split moments you don't see.
Right.
But you go back and to me, those are lucky moments. Those are frozen moments.
Freezing moments. I was just going to say,
but it also could tell that instant story of, man, that guy was really trying to tackle that guy.
Yeah.
And busted the face mask off, or it was just a weak face mask. But it's a great impactful image.
So you have done sports, you have done, stuff for families and stuff like that. Have you ever done concerts?
I have done concerts. Very, very few.
Now,
yeah.
Do you like doing concerts too?
They're fun. They're a little more challenging because
I bet, because they're constantly moving. There is no
constantly moving
for an hour and a half.
But and then you have the restrictions of three songs or 2 songs and out, or the first 30 seconds. And sometimes with concerts, your artist they're not really in the zone yet. By then, some are. I remember doing Chainsmokers concert last year at College National Championship in Atlanta. Well, it was freezing cold.
Right.
I think it was like maybe 10 degrees at night, and you're sitting.
That's got to be hard all by itself. Taking photos like that,
and then all of a sudden, the stage erupts, flames. Everybody's going nuts behind you, but. And the show starts, and then all of a sudden your adrenaline's going, and you're moving, you're trying to stay with the performers, and you're trying to make sure they don't get hidden behind, a speaker. But then the artistic brain starts going, and you don't see it through the lens, but all of a sudden you see the artist is silhouetted behind all the smoke and flames. Yeah. So you start trying to make, that picture come through. And, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm into the 3rd song already. Right. Security's, starting to run at you. And you get that little high of trying to make something amazing in those 3 songs.
Okay. So let's just have some fun right now, because while you're saying all this, I'm just thinking to myself, the number one question a NASCAR driver gets, and I've been doing this for 18 years, interviewing drivers and stuff like that. Fans always want to know how the driver goes to the bathroom in a 3 or 4 hour race. So, Jasen,
I've heard stories.
Right. No. That's not the question, though.
Okay.
The question is, I'm setting it up because I'm going to ask you, what do you do when you have to go to the bathroom and you are out there taking photos during a race, a game, and you can't leave? You are there to take photos and do your thing.
Well, luckily in some sports, there's halftime in between innings. But like the longer sports where, NASCAR.
Like a NASCAR race? I mean, there is no, I guess stages now. You have that.
You've got time.
Okay. Have you ever had a situation where you, especially in the beginning, where you don't really know how to prepare yourself for a gig?
Yeah.
And this is what I mean. I know that there are certain things I don't eat the night before because I don't want to be on stage for an hour and a half and then have to go to the bathroom.
Correct. There are sometimes I won't even eat lunch
right,
before.
so have you ever had an embarrassing moment that you're like, I'm not saying you wet yourself or went to the bathroom, but you're like, oh my gosh, will never do that again.
There's been times where I've been sprinting to the closest porta potty after a certain event or like, after a baseball game. I'm like, got to edit these pictures. Got to go to the bathroom real quick.
Okay. Cell phones is a huge deal. I mean, the cell phones on the iPhone, 8 Plus and everything else they take some really nice photos. Is that a pain in the butt for a professional photographer that is trying to shoot the game with a real camera, expensive cameras and stuff like that? And do these people ever get in the way when they're trying to take photos with their phone, trying to take the shot that you're trying to get?
I want to be as politically correct as possible because the answer that everybody that's going to hear this that does what I do is going to say yes.
Right.
But...
Well, there's going to be another probably 98% of the people that have never done what you do, and that's why you're on the show right now, is because we're trying to get into your head.
Right. So
have some fun with it. I want you to be honest because you were just honest about an hour and a half ago.
So the wave of the future is a mobile phone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sports teams, industries all now hire social media employees or social media experts to go stand on sidelines with phones.
What?
Yeah.
So you're telling me that people get paid to take their cell phones
yes.
and stand there and take photos?
There are actual jobs within certain industry. I mean, it happened with every industry. I mean, because
really, I never knew that.
Social media is one of the quickest ways to get news out.
So wait a second. So you are telling me that when I think that I'm seeing something live or a photo just taken, I'm thinking, wow, that fan actually captured that moment. How'd they get so close? They were paid to do that.
Yeah, there are.
It wasn't just an accident and it's just a cool photo. They got paid to do that.
Yes.
Oh man,
it is the way.
It's an insider that I never knew, or an insider deal that I never knew.
And that's why I said I want to be as politically correct as I can, because I don't know. I could have that job tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, not saying I am, but it could be, it come down to, I could be lugging 30 pounds of gear today, but by this time next year, one of those social media jobs come up. Somebody could be literally standing there. I could be standing there.
Do they ever get in your way?
Yes. I will say that. Yes. Yeah. There's times where, you're paying attention to what's happening through the viewfinder.
Yeah.
And I shoot with my left eye closed. So I'm blind, completely blind to the left.
Okay.
So I'm watching a play come in and I'm watching a running back run toward the end zone. And then all of a sudden my frame goes dark and I can't see.
Was it because you got hit?
No, it was because one of the social media people walked right in front of me.
Oh.
So, it's a learning process. Some of them have never been in a sports game or a sports event.
What is the proper etiquette when you are down on the field? I guess proper etiquette would be don't walk in front of somebody.
You want to pay attention to your right and your left, just to make sure that, like for us, our cameras are much bigger. Yeah, you're swinging us.
Do you have one of those like 3 and 4 foot like lenses
I do.
Wow.
So, but you got to make sure, like if you're watching a play and you're swinging to the left, I'm making sure my guy to the right, he might be with a different company, but still, etiquette, he's getting the same, and I'm not leaning. I have a zoom. I don't need to lean.
Right.
I can twist my zoom and it gets closer to the action. Some
That's
people
cool.
lean, and this social media person, like they thought they needed to be closer and they walked out
Yeah.
in front of, a small group of us.
Have you ever got hit?
I've been hit. Yeah. Not super hard.
Yeah, because
But-
I've watched it on TV, and sometimes I mean you can't stop a freight train.
No.
I mean these guys are huge.
You gotta know. Sometimes you gotta know when to.
Do they ever apologize after they hit somebody like that, a photographer, or do they just walk away going, you were there?
I have. I don't know. I've not been close enough to one that's
Okay.
happened. I know that it happens, basketball and football. I've been hit by foul balls.
Really?
At baseball, and those hurt like heck.
No kidding.
But
Have you ever had somebody like on the court or on the field say, "Stop taking pictures of me"? Like, actually getting angry that you were taking photos and doing your job.
Yeah.
Really?
I've had some, in certain aspects. The comment is, do you have enough yet?
Wow.
Because
and
they
your
hear
job.
that they hear that shudder.
Yeah.
But and that's kind of leads us into some of these newer cameras where you can't hear the shutter.
Okay.
It's got the silent shutter on. So in theory, those are better because now you can sit there and
All
you
day
might have
long out
shot 10 images of the athlete and they don't know because they
Right.
can't hear it. And I think that's what they hear, that shudder, and that really is what might throw somebody, annoy somebody.
Yeah.
Because they think, wow, they hear that the click of the shutter and they've heard it 50 times already.
Have you ever done like horse racing or anything like that?
No, I have not.
Anything with animals, like with like sports?
No,
All right, just humans then.
just humans.
So what advice, Jasen, can you give the person that is out there? What advice could you give somebody that loves doing this and would love to take it to another level?
Always be learning. That's the thing is there's always this industry, there's always something new coming around the corner, latest technology, next wave of people behind you, because we all age,
So are you now learning from the younger generation?
a little, yeah. Yeah. They look at, the younger generation looks at things differently.
Yeah,
You
they sure
know,
do. Or if they look at all.
Yeah. They look at things differently. So they have a different eye. And that's the thing is, I've always told people in the industry is as soon as you feel like you've made it and you're the best it's ever been, you're going to get knocked off
Absolutely.
that rock real quick. So it's a very humbling job.
So you went to somebody and you kind of learned underneath him.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody came to you and now the roles have changed and now you are teaching
Yeah.
the student? What's
Yeah.
that like for you? Because I know what it's like for me
It's-
when new speakers come and they want to learn the business, because it's not just getting up on stage for 50 minutes, 55 minutes and talking. There's an art behind it and there's a business behind it too. Doing the actual speech is the easy part.
Right. I'm the kind of guy that I'm not gonna hide all the secrets because I believe in paying it forward because
Yeah.
it's the way that the industry grows.
Amen,
right?
brother.
So it puts good people on the sidelines that are gonna hopefully in turn that next generation, they're gonna teach those secrets, and it's almost like leaving a legacy. if you will.
Absolutely.
So to me, it's great. There's a couple of young kids right now that have just gotten started, and it's fun to see them just so excited when they first step on the football
And that
field.
motivates you too, don't it?
Yeah, because all of a sudden you're just like, you might be having a crappy day.
Yeah.
Oh, in your mind, I got to go to a football game. It's gonna rain. And then all of a sudden you see that person that you've been talking to, and you've kind of been helping, and I'm not the only mentor to all these. I mean, they pick the brains of everybody,
Right,
which
yeah.
is fine. But then you're just like, oh my gosh, I need to step up my game
Yeah.
because you've got a small. I don't want to provide garbage images, so I need to go out and I need to be the best that I can for me, because I can only control what happens through my lens and what's happening around me. So it's humbling and it's rewarding.
Yeah, sure is.
And it's one of those I'm 42 now. I hope and I pray and I want to do this for
another 20.
Another 20 years. I'm like that. I'm like that late season driver that didn't get into the car until he's late 30s. I didn't have not really a luxury, but I didn't get into it. And that, I think that almost 7-8 years where I was kind of hiatus out of it. If I could go back, I would take that opportunity right out of high school.
Do you have a favorite photo that maybe you have blown up in your house that you look at it all the time, or several that you look and say, I cannot believe that is just the coolest photo, and I can't believe I'm the one that took it? And can you explain them? Paint that picture for us.
I think it was, and it was 2000. What year Joey win the Daytona 500? 2014. I think it was 2014. It was my first Daytona 500.
Okay.
As a professional.
Okay.
It does. Maybe it's 2013. The years of
escaped
me.
Yeah.
But, I had set up a small remote camera down at the front of Gatorade Victory Lane, and remote cameras, we in the industry all realize that they may not work.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of a fail safe, a get lucky if you got it. If it didn't work, oh well, that's why you got the one in your hand.
Right.
So I'd set up, and I had totally just guessed it, everything, because you're setting up that camera at noon, 10 o'clock, but you don't know
nobody's there.
That race might be midnight.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
It might be midnight before that race gets over. So you don't know what the exposure is going to be like. You don't know so you're just literally guessing, and there's a couple automatic features that you can set up, but sometimes those automatic features aren't the greatest. So race gets over. I photograph the burnout. And then I hustle all the way to Victory Lane, which in Daytona is not far.
No, it's not far, but still you're hustling. And I don't know how much those cameras weigh, but you don't just have one. You have a couple.
You have like 3.
Yeah.
I mean, Darlington's worse. Victory Lane's in 4, and Media Center is in 1, and Victory Lane is right in the middle. So,
right.
I mean, you're hustling, and then you're getting to your spot, and then, you got to turn on the remote camera because you didn't want the battery to die. Oh, you got to, fire a test shot, make sure that the remote trigger is working. Nope. Then you got to get in your spot, and then you got to, real quick, try and make sure that exposure looks good. So
all this taking place, and then you take that one,
and then you take the image, and
do you know as soon as you take it, you're like, wow, or does it usually take
that particular image? When I saw it on the back of the camera, I gave it to the runner, and I said, "Run this as fast as you can to our editor in the media center because this image is amazing."
Really?
About 3 weeks later, I'm opening up Sports Illustrated, and there it is.
Wow.
2-page, and it says right now it still sends chills down my spine because it's one of those.
That's so cool.
I had framed. A friend of mine had knows Joey's people and had it signed.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's one that I have 2 copies. One's in my house. One's in my dad's basement.
Wow, that's so cool.
But there are a few that I can look back and I'm just like, when you see some of these older images and you put. And then you meet the people who take those.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's like, to me, like meeting my heroes.
Right. Absolutely. So who did you look up to in this business then? I mean, I know who you worked underneath, but as far as like, even just going back in time and people not even, on this earth anymore that took cool photos and that inspired you, who were some of those people?
A lot of the Sports Illustrated guys.
Okay.
Bob Rosado, VJ Libero, Al Tillmans. I mean, these guys that have been with, Sports Illustrated forever. And then, as a young kid, you're opening up and you're like, oh, wow. Look at, I hope one day I can make an image that's, looks as good as that. Or, I want to, I want to be there.
Yeah.
And, I want to, have that privilege. And again, I call it a privilege because, it's a very small, tight-knit community, just as any industry is.
They say you never work a day in your life when you love what you're doing. And I think that's where we're both at. I
I love it. I've not been in it. I'm still young in the industry. I mean, you still have, all these guys that have 20, 30 years in this industry.
I was going to say, I go to a lot of races, and when I see you, I'm like, you're a young guy compared to most of the people out there.
and I'm older. I'm 42. I've been.
Okay. So I know that you don't like the technology as far as like the phones and stuff.
Oh, I like it.
I mean, I know you like it, but just having some fun right now. When it comes to like photo editing and stuff like that, apps on your phone, you can do a lot with a crappy photo now.
Yeah.
What is your favorite app on the phone for editing photos that anybody could use?
I use Snapseed and, Instagram a lot. I mean, that's, to me, Instagram is probably the best for somebody in the industry.
Wait a second. You're saying as far as...
But I don't quote unquote
filter?
No.
You don't filter anything.
Because
but even not even for fun?
There are a couple that I might throw a little saturation or anything, but you got to think, my mind is thinking editorially.
Yeah.
So I'm taking a picture as it's happening, and I'm reporting that picture as the fan sees it.
Yeah.
I'm not adding crazy HDR to it.
So does it go right from your camera right to the studio?
Some cases,
in
yes.
Wi-Fi situations.
So depending upon the scale of the event, like if it's like this weekend for the Charlotte race, I will take the picture, and then I will, probably during stage 1 break, depending on where I'm at in the track. I mean, the Roval is such a unknown. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. Like I don't know where the photo layouts are. Right. How far I'm going to be from the media center. But what football game?
Yep.
All right. So traditionally football 4 quarters. So the way that we report the game on a football game is once. Your key images are your first 2 quarterbacks, right? Your primary quarterbacks. So you're trying to get that traditional, cocked back, open picture
of the quarterback.
Yeah.
For those of you that can't see him right now, he has his arm back and he looks like some stud, like going to throw the football.
Ready to throw the football for 75, 80-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you have one of those, and then. Sometimes you're running back if he's busted out for a big play or a score in the first series. Then you run into the media center and you send those 4 or 5 pictures.
Gotcha.
That way your clients are seeing those pictures, because USA Today isn't just a newspaper. It's global. It's we have clients that and
you're online too,
that go to those picture desks. And you've got a writer who's prepping to write a story on that game, so you're priming the pump basically.
Yep.
Then you run back out. And in halftime, you come in, and keep in mind, football is probably one of the more demanding, because you're going up and down the sidelines with the play.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the sweltering South Florida heat now, it's no joke. And then you come in halftime, pound 3 or 4 waters because you're dehydrated. And then you're sending another 15, 20 images from the first half.
And we all see the photo and just think that you have this like glamorous lifestyle that,
I consider it glamorous. I get to go to football games. I get to go to car races,
That is so cool then.
I do.
And so you never know who's actually using your photos.
For the most part, no.
That's crazy.
I mean, there are days where I know if I've covered a big event, I'll pick up, the newspaper and just kind of, scan it real quick. But then, I do know of a few clients from, the company has, you can go to their blogs or their websites, and you might see, something. But, and then there's print work, we partner with trading card companies. So, I mean, those you kind of, if you're partner with, like if I'm doing an international soccer game, they'll send me kind of a hit list of guys that they need for trading cards that are coming out.
Soccer is just unbelievable.
I love soccer.
I love it now that I understand it. But and then when I saw the field is when I was, it's crazy.
You think of it, and it's crazy because it's only, I think, 20 yards bigger than a football field.
Right. But it's
you don't
nonstop.
and you don't look at a football field as being that big.
Right. Exactly. I couldn't believe it. We only got a few more minutes, and I want to make sure I get this in there. So you also said in the beginning that you are doing more and more video now.
Yes.
So is that just the transition from taking photos to video?
It is.
Or is that
it's a transition of the industry.
Okay.
When you look at Insta stories, Snapchat, Facebook stories, people want that access into the life or into the arena that you're at. So you're seeing more visual, moving visual. And that's also transitions into, it's just a way that the industry is moving, with the short stories. I mean, look at the snake this morning.
I know that
the pictures are going to be great, but the video would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a transition.
How do you stay creative? How do you, as a person, as a man, knowing that you have to be creative for everybody else, be creative for work? How do you yourself stay creative?
I watch game tape.
What?
I watch game tape. So
are you serious?
It's not technically game tape, but when I watch movies,
like YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like,
when I watch movies, or if I'm watching something, I'm like, how did they light that? If I was on there, how would I do that? How would I convey that story? And then when I'm like doing something, it'll pop in my head. Oh yeah, this is that situation that I can do that in. Which is why when I said golf was one of my favorite, is you see the way something was. You might see something that somebody else did, and you put your flavor on it.
Right. Yeah. Because we're not reinventing the wheel here.
Right.
We're just making the wheel better.
And goes back to always be learning.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There are times where, I've got a couple hours. I just watch a couple YouTube, and then podcasts. Podcasts are great.
Yeah.
I don't think I've listened to music in my car now for a good solid 3 months.
It was funny. I didn't even know what a podcast was until a few months ago when I was on Greg's podcast, and then afterwards he was like, "You need to start your own show. I mean, you have a great presence about." And now here we are, over 3 million plays on the podcast.
Nice.
And stuff like that. Not bragging, saying, but it took somebody to see something in me to make it happen.
Right.
And now, because I didn't even know what a podcast was.
Yeah.
Now I love them.
I was getting ready for my 10-hour drive from Fort Lauderdale, and I'm like downloading podcasts to listen to on the way. And just because, I don't know, I'm very analytical and very technical. So to me, I enjoy those much more than.
How can people follow you on social media?
Are
they allowed to?
Oh, absolutely. So you can follow me Instagram, Jasen Vinlove, at Jasen Vinlove, and it's JasenVinlove. And Twitter, same thing. Those are probably the two best, because they're visual.
Yeah. Now, do you have people often write to you and asking you to, meet up with them or talk to them, or just talk to them and say, "Hey, I love your work"?
Yeah. Yep,
how cool
absolutely.
is that for you?
There's a couple direct messages I get.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw your picture. I'm looking to get in the industry. What kind of advice do you have for me?
We are here in Charlotte, North Carolina right now. You're shooting the Roval, which is the first time it's been out. Who is your driver now? Who is your driver that you say, you know what? I know who my old driver was, who I love, and you probably still love him. But who's your driver now?
I'm probably going to get heat from this, but I like Kyle Busch.
You're right. Okay, the show's over. No, you're absolutely right.
The guy brings.
Love him or hate him, he's an incredible race car driver.
Right, but the guy also.
He's not vanilla.
No, and what was this sport built on?
Absolutely.
So
you're absolutely right.
When people are like. And when he won in Chicago, right? When he did the whole
whiny, if you
don't like it, don't watch. Yeah. Did we ever get mad at Dale Earnhardt for doing that?
No, absolutely not.
Do we ever get mad at Cale Yarborough? And oh gosh, now my mind is escaping me.
But no,
the fight in Daytona.
That's what made NASCAR. Are you kidding me?
Every story has a hero and a villain, right? And I'm not calling anybody.
I totally understand what you're saying.
look at when the Patriots come to play anybody.
Yep.
You have a hero and a villain. People love to hate the Patriots, but they're good football.
With Kyle Busch, and I've also seen that he likes to play the villain, but his heart is really not. And I have seen what he has done for like kids and even adults that signing flags without even them knowing, and just putting a little note on something that I want to say it's an act sometimes, but it's really not. He's passionate, and I love people that are passionate about what they do, because you said it just a little while ago, and then you said it again, and you said it again. You said it 3 times in this podcast. When you think you're at the top and you think you're better than everybody else is when you're going to be knocked off. He knows at any given time that he has to stay where he wants to be. He has to be hungry every single race. He has to have it. Otherwise, someone's going to be right behind him, knocking him off, because there's kids right now starting racing at 4 and 5 years old.
Right. And, and like you, my one real quick story, if I got time.
No, please.
And I think I saw this. So it was the year he got injured. In Daytona.
When he broke his leg.
When he broke his leg, didn't know if he was ever going to race again.
Yeah.
So I got the assignment in, was it the same year he came back? Again, these things just...
Yeah, no, he did come back the same year. It was later on in the year because
his first
because they actually
back,
let him stay with getting into the championship because of the fact that it was an accident.
So I got the assignment for USA Today to go to Halifax, and it was his first time back at Daytona. Mm-hmm. And he and Samantha went to Halifax and thanked all the doctors.
You're absolutely right. I remember that.
And I was there capturing those moments, and there I saw a different person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was like, at that point I was like, wow, this guy is giving it all he's got, inside of a race car, but, is such a real person, outside of the driver's suit and outside of all the cameras pointed at him. To come back and realize, these are the people that put me back together so that I could do what I love.
Absolutely.
And that to me, that was a moment that I'm just like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. You try not to get captured in the moment, but you actually did, because it was so gratifying and so cool to see that. And
that's, love him or hate him.
Yeah, no.
The guy
he's fun to talk about. And I will always say that I enjoy talking about him because I've seen the real him.
Yeah, I've seen the real him.
And it's just cool.
Yeah.
I love to joke around because, I obviously do a lot with Chevy and stuff like that. So it's fun to mess with his fans at our display, watching another driver.
He likes to mess with fans.
Yes, absolutely. It's just fun to talk about.
I think what Dale Earnhardt say one time, if they're not booing you, you're not doing it right.
Muhammad Ali once said, he goes, they're here to see me lose or here to see me win, but either way, they're here to see me.
Right. So
that's it.
He's probably one of my favorites in the garage.
We're going to wrap it up with this, and I want you to tell us, what is a saying that you live by every single day? Because you have to stay motivated and inspired yourself every single day. I know that you're thankful for everything you have, but I know that all of us there's one thing that keeps us inspired and motivated. What's that one thing for you?
I don't know that it's a saying. It's try to be better than yesterday.
Love it.
Love it. It's one of those, I go
try to be better than yesterday.
So, you go in, you have 42 home baseball games.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you make one better than yesterday?
Absolutely.
So it's, and we all get trapped into mundane, no matter what you do, even if you love it. But it's one of those, is how can I make today's game better than yesterday? So that's pretty much what I try to do.
Jasen Vinlove, one more time, please tell us how we can follow you on social media, and please spell it out for all the fans.
You can follow me on Instagram at Jasen Vinlove. That's at Jasen Vinlove, JasenVinlove. The same on Twitter. You reach out to me, follow along and see where this crazy road takes us.
That is so cool. I appreciate you hanging out with us for last hour. This is Johnny D, the Motivational Cowboy, telling all of you, Be safe, have fun, and have yourselves an outstanding day. And remember, you can watch all my podcasts at soundcloud.com/outstanding life podcast. You can also download us at iTunes podcast. And you can go to motivationalcowboy.com. Again, be safe, have fun, and have yourselves an outstanding day. We'll see you next episode.
Outstanding Life is a Soul Bridge Studio production.